John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Headshot.
Oh, that Boston Garden rap always sounds better after a Boston Celtics Game 7 win. Great to be back in your respective lives Monday, May 15, 2023. It's episode 409 of the Anik Florian podcast presented by DraftKings. We just did Brendan Schaub's show together for an hour, and he asked us if you could still find the podcast on Apple, and the answer is unequivocally yes. You can find the audio anywhere you have ever found the audio before. Video a little bit different. We're on the DraftKings YouTube channel, clips on the AF channel, and the DraftKings Network. Thrilled to be on the DraftKings Network, newly minted, by the way. Anik Florian podcast, one of the flagship programs. Very excited about that. Even more excited about the goddamn Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. Kenny and I are going to be neighbors. There are 5 houses in his neighborhood in Charlotte on the market right now. And I've already laid the foundation. I am not even messing with you when I tell you that I've already talked to my daughters about this.
Heck yeah, dude. We need you. We need you over here, kid.
So, you know, you got to be careful, right? I mean, I could pretend I'm talking about like Ken Flo's neighbor's house, but you have a swing in your backyard. How many feet is this swing? How many feet's the swing, Kenny?
It goes up pretty damn high. I did not install this thing. We had an arborist, which is a tree specialist, who put it in. But it's up there, kid. I mean, it's up a good 40 feet, probably. I mean,
Kenny, honey, can you write a check to the arborist, please, for the 50-foot swing? And your wife suggested that you go pretty high on this thing.
Yeah,
because I know you
can get pretty. How about Dominic Cruz playing on the swing? I could just see little Dom playing on the swing, and there was something endearing about it. Seeing Dominic Cruz on that swing, he was having a great time. He was in heaven.
Greatest conference call of his life. He took 30 minutes and he spent the entire portion of it on the swing. It was great. No, but it was great to see you in your element in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I just have to say, right, like I live in South Florida. I mean, I live in Boca Raton. Colby Covington told the world. It's just gotten progressively noisier since I moved here in 2015, you know, and then I come to Charlotte, North Carolina, and just not unlike I think maybe you and your wife when you were looking at different cities on the East Coast, just enjoyed the vibe. So excited about the prospects of doing the Anik Florian podcast in studio with you in Charlotte, North Carolina. Here I am looking at studios for the show in South Florida, about to fly our producer down to look at prospective studio spaces. And then I go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and now my mind is bent, and I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
Hey, we could just do one studio. We could both be in there for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah. So I think I would annoy you being in the same neighborhood, though. And maybe you don't want to tell the audience that right now. Like, do you have any friends in the neighborhood? Because I'm not looking for new friends at this point in my life. I don't want any new friends. I don't have very many friends. I don't want new friends.
I'm like, John, we don't have any sugar, dude. Okay, just get out of here. There's no coffee. We don't even no, whatever you need, man. Come on.
I don't need anything. I just don't want to annoy everybody, right?
No,
just not trying to annoy everybody in Charlotte, North Carolina. But no, I mean, and I know people are like, can you guys just talk about Ian Garry for a second? We will. But then I get in the car with Bruce Buffer and I start talking about Charlotte, and the driver's like, excuse me. You know, I know I'm not supposed to interrupt, but make no mistake about it. This is the greatest place in the world. Cost of living is cheap. You know. So I don't know. If you want to let me know on social media where you think I should move, feel free to let me know. I want to go to Arizona. My wife has this wayward fear of scorpions, which is just silly, but I can't get to Arizona. So if you have ideas as to where I should move, I think Dallas has merit because of all the traveling I do. But we're going to talk about some mixed martial arts while we also wish our executive producer, Cody Merrow, a very happy 30th birthday. To have accomplished what this young man has by 30 is pretty spectacular. You know, I didn't want to tell you what I was doing at 30 years of age. Eventually we found our lane and figured it out, you know. Remember calling my dad in 2003. I guess I was a little younger than 30. I couldn't pay my rent, It's like, I don't know what to tell you, son. Yeah, I might be able to locate a, savings bond from your bar mitzvah, but tell your friend you're going to be a little bit late this month. And I'm not talking about your period. All right. Lot to get into today. UFC Fight Night, Rosenstrike versus Almeida. How are your seats? Look like Amber Bowen took care of you.
The seats were phenomenal. They're the best seats in the house, honestly, because they're floor seats, but it's above. So I'm looking literally like eye level with the octagon. It was phenomenal. It was
Amber
unbelievable.
Bowen hooked you up. Very, very exciting. And, just fucking tickled to have you in the building. I couldn't come over and say hello, but very excited to have you in the building. I wanted to come over and make a huge scene, but there are too many finishes and a lot of fill time. And what are you going to do? All right. So I'm going to lead with Ian Machado. Garry, we, of course, will get to Jailton Almeida, and you and I have had a chance to talk about these fights a little bit this morning. But Ian Garry over Daniel Rodriguez in a featured bout. He wins by TKO. He takes his place in the top 15. And I don't know if it's 4 or 5-0 in the UFC right now. I'll look it up. But 12-0 overall now, 5-0 in the UFC, and I think I've had 5 fighter meetings with the kid at this point in time, and I just think mentally he's on a level that I'm not sure I've seen a 25-year-old be on. We've had a lot of young phenoms and athletes that have the mental to go with the physical, but this kid is really, really special, and wouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, I'd be stunned if there isn't greatness in his future, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't fight for the title, if not win it one day when it's all said and done.
It's pretty simple. He was the star of the night, in my opinion. I thought he fought pretty flawlessly against a guy who is extremely dangerous. And D-Rod, the dude comes forward. He's got knockout power. And Ian Garry just always had an answer. He's so slick. And we knew that heading into that. But to go out there and execute on that level against a high-pressure fighter who has a rock-solid chin and finish him like he did, I think was perfect. And you talked about his age, 25 years old, to have that level of composure and to perform like that, I was blown away. He stole the show, man.
So some quotes, right? This is the fall of Daniel Rodriguez. It's going to be bad. Just talking about his cardio and his speed. And these are just notes on my card about Ian Garry. Speed, power, vision. Cardio has always been his main weapon. Vicious head kicks. And on and on it goes. Dominic Cruz had sort of isolated some situations where he thought Ian could capitalize on. And a lot of this kind of dovetail with his analysis there. Sometimes people don't like when we talk superlatively, and people still don't get it, right? They think that we're sort of overhyping Ian Garry, and I'm not sure it's been so much the hype train as much as it has been him confidently executing on his every word and sort of promoting himself. So without getting too far ahead of ourselves, he called out Neil Magny. I'd imagine you think that's the right progression at this point in time.
I think it's a perfect call out. Ian Garry's a guy that at 25 years old knows very well who he is, where he stands in that division. I thought it was the perfect call out. And again, it's one thing to know that, but some fighters don't have the balls to call out another guy. And you talked about it earlier on Brennan Schaub's podcast, and I thought you said it beautifully, is that he's confident but not cocky. And I think there's a big difference. And I thought it was the perfect fight for at this point of his career. I think he matches up extremely well against Neil Magny. Neil Magny does have a lot of different tools and a ton of experience, but I think it's a great fight for him to see and gauge exactly where he sits in that welterweight division. But there's no question that he has a ton of potential, and it is both an advantage and a disadvantage that he is from Ireland, and you have these Conor McGregor comparisons, right? So I think that over time he will be able to kind of get rid of that shadow, I think. But he also has the support of Conor McGregor himself, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
And Ian Garry is something special, man. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his fights.
So essentially, Garry dropped out of school to pursue MMA. He had some of a combat sports background, boxing at 10 years old, actually over 300 matches. But Conor drew everybody's attention to MMA. And then I think it was judo that Garry pivoted to, at least initially, right? But as we've said on the broadcast, imagine being, a 16, 17-year-old kid, and there's this McGregor phenomenon in your nation, right? And this is the best guy to come out of that mix. And, I think championship potential doesn't even begin to describe it. I mean, you should hear the way Derek Brunson and some of his other past and present teammates talk about him. One thing that is certainly an interesting wrinkle to all of this, and in the nature of always getting ahead of ourselves on the Anik and Florian podcast, Gilbert Burns, number 5 in the world, is his teammate, as is 6th-ranked Shavkat Rakhmonov. He has also trained with the number 1 contender, Kamaru Usman, as well as 10th-ranked Vicente Luque, who I think frequents that gym, given his connection with Gilbert Durinho Burns. So that being said, as Ian Garry articulated, eloquently as usual, love him or hate him, there are a lot of other guys that he can fight, right? It's not like I mentioned 15 names. So there are plenty of guys that he could fight. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Usman and Chimaev currently occupying spots number 1 and number 4. But Neil Magny's number 11 in the world, and it makes sense right now. I don't believe Magny has a fight. There are some fights that I don't know if they're public or private. I can tell you some of these guys in this top 15 are booked or will be soon. But it's very exciting, I think, to think about Ian Garry and a Magny fight and the potential of a main event here in the not-too-distant future.
Made the best out of that opportunity in Charlotte, and I think that it's extremely important that you mention all of those training partners that he has. Great training partners, because a couple things. First of all, you're going to learn from those men. Not only are you going to learn from those guys and what they're doing and how they train, and also look at some of the things that maybe you shouldn't do, but also, it's a great gauge as a young man in this sport. You want to be able to see and know how far you can go, and gauging yourself in sparring. Sparring is sparring, fighting is fighting, but it is a nice indicator for a guy coming up and can build your confidence in such a way that can really get you to rise up and make the right call outs. And I think that's why he's making this right call out. And again, I'm sure he does just fine against a lot of those guys in training. And that's just going to make him that much more confident and that much more dangerous in the future.
So if I buy a house in your neighborhood and I want to come on the swing when you guys aren't home, am I going to get zapped by something?
Whenever
Do you have any of those dog fences that will zap you? Invisible
we have dogs,
fence?
No, we have dogs, but you're fine. The dogs will stay locked up.
All right. I got to see the jiu-jitsu room, by the way. So Ian Garry, during this training camp, some of it was not necessarily, I think, a long-term plan or by design, but he ended up training with Tom Breeze and several others at Leon Edwards' camp. Yes. And he extracted a ton of value from that. I think developed a relationship that will extend. He's going to Brazil on May 21st to learn jiu-jitsu there, and you can certainly speak to that. I don't know if that was your intention. Yeah, can you tell us real quickly about the time in your life when you went to Brazil? What exactly was your initial pursuit? You lived there for 6 months?
I did. I loved it. I went many, many times for training exclusively. And, I think it's changed a bit. There's still, obviously, some of the best competitors in the world are still in Brazil. A lot of the best teachers are probably here in the States, if I'm being honest. But I think it gives a great opportunity for you to experience Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the way the Brazilians do it. And in being in that environment and to have you basically just be on the mat with guys in their specialty, I think is huge for him. And it shows that this guy's a true martial artist, and he doesn't care about ego or getting humbled. He just wants to get better. And to go out and do that, whether it's, going to do judo in Japan or going to, the States or to Russia to wrestle or training in Thailand with Muay Thai, there's something special that happens when you do that. Having been to Brazil, having been to Thailand, having traveled and trained with a lot of these guys, I think it's really important to understand the culture, to understand the background, to train with the best in the world. And I think some of the best athletes are the best watchers. And I think Ian Garry understands that. If he puts himself in that environment and trains with some of the best guys, no matter where it is, I think he's going to learn a lot. And I think that's smart that he's doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of what he was saying about that future experience, he's leaving in 6 days, is dovetails with what you were saying, that jiu-jitsu is just different over there, and absorbing that culture is only going to benefit him moving forward. And then he's going to go to New Zealand and align with Israel Adesanya. So
he's okay, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could learn some things from him.
I'd imagine he's not going to be getting worse. So perhaps awesome. You may want to fight Ian Garry before he continues his ascent. All right. if you think I'm excited about Ian Garry, you might have to really tell me to slow my roll when it comes to Jailton Almeida, because anyone who has listened to the Anik and Florian podcast knows what we think about offensive jiu-jitsu and submissions. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know exactly how much wrestling Jailton Almeida has done in his life, right? In training or otherwise, right? I know he wasn't a college wrestler, right? I don't know how many times he's donned a singlet. But I do know that he gets to his position very quickly, and every time he is minus 600, he fights like a guy who probably deserved to be minus 800. So what are your thoughts on the budding heavyweight contender, 31 years of age, from Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, Jailton Malhadinho Almeida?
He's a savage, man. I think he's a beast with a tremendous amount of potential. Physically, obviously, very, very gifted. The dude's muscles have muscles. At one point, though, he bounced off of Yair Rozenstruik, who looked like a refrigerator out there, just a true heavyweight through and through. Failed on that first attempt, but again, stayed calm, was able to stay composed, was very careful not to stand and trade with Rozenstruik. And ultimately got the takedown. And from there, he was just in full control, didn't make any mistakes, wasn't losing position there, was very methodical, slowly just started to ratchet up that pressure and that tightness, and was able to get the win. This was a huge opportunity for him. His first main event in the UFC, not an easy thing for a young fighter to deal with. And I thought he came out looking extremely good, and is only going to get better from that experience.
So it seems as though twice visa issues set Almeida's UFC debut back. He was never really going to be on Dana White's Contender Series, but that ended up being the conduit through which he got into the UFC. But he comes from a boxing family. He talked to us a lot about the 5-round live sessions that he did, and yet here he is only needing 3 minutes and 43 seconds. And, Jairzinho Rozenstruik understood the magnitude of what a win over Jailton Almeida would have meant, and as such accepted the fight. But, there's a lot of guys who haven't been able to do that to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and I really do think it's impressive. So as we spin it forward with one Jailton Almeida, and if you're watching on the video side, I'm smiling, I'm getting excited. He's won 14 fights in a row, and I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see him get extended and maybe showcase his striking a little bit, but I do believe that he's going to really be trying to be a specialist in there, and I'm not sure that even Gilbert Burns at times. I wonder if Gilbert Burns just went in there and said, you know what? Striking's a means to an end tonight. I'm not kickboxing tonight. I'm just trying to get takedowns. What do you think about Almeida and his future and how ready he is for prime time right now?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you have to know who you are. You have to know where your strengths lie and where your opponent is most vulnerable. I'd like to see him in a longer fight, and really test his striking just to see exactly how he would fare against maybe a guy that he might not be able to take down. But you kind of hinted at it earlier. He's not a college wrestler, but perhaps he could train with a bunch of them. And I think I'd like to see him maybe break out of that mold of maybe just training in Brazil and going out and seeking help in the wrestling game, because when you have a top game that is, very pressure oriented, where you set up your strikes very well to get those submissions in a heavyweight division where you could go and really expose that if he's able to get top position, I think you have to pair that with excellent and crisp takedown. So if he could go out and do that and, show a little bit more composure perhaps on the feet, I think this is a guy that absolutely could be a world champion in the heavyweight division. And, he's not the biggest heavyweight in the world, but maybe he has plans of continuing to compete, 205 heavyweight going back and forth, which is a tricky thing to do, but obviously very physically gifted man. I think there's special things in store for him in his career.
I don't like to put you on the spot necessarily and ask you to handicap how he would fare against, say, Stipe Miocic right now at this stage of Stipe's career, right? But as I look at the top 10, he's going to take Biggie Boy's spot at number 9 in the world at the very least. And seems like everybody has to get through the Volkov challenge at some point, and most people can't, But I do think stylistically he presents a lot of fascinating style versus style fights in the heavyweight division. Tai Tuivasa is out there. Yep. Cody Merrow, even on his birthday, chased the rankings for us. Any name jump off the page? You got Tommy Aspinall, number 5 in the world. He, of course, is fighting Marcin Tybura in a main event this summer. Tybura, number 10. You got Sergey, the polar bear, Spivak, number 8 in the world, an emerging talent. I mean, Sergey Pavlovich is the guy everybody's talking about. And, it is interesting, too. We talked about this morning. When Jailton Almeida has a win like this, oftentimes you hear from fans, yeah, well, Sergey Pavlovich knocked his head off his body. It's like, all right, well, maybe we'll see them fight one time. What do you have for us on Jailton Almeida's future, and is there any name there that piques your interest?
Well, in regards to Pavlovich, it's like, yeah, Pavlovich can knock anybody out, but also he could easily take down Pavlovich and get on top of him and submit him. So it's an interesting matchup. But as far as what is the fight that makes the most amount of sense, I think it's Tai Tuivasa. I think that's the fight. I think Tuivasa would definitely do his best to try to keep that fight on the feet. Obviously, a dangerous striker, a guy who's low to the ground, stocky. And I think that would be tough. I think that'd be an interesting fight. But as you start to go up, you look at the guys like, Sergey Spivak. And I mean, he's a problem on the feet, man. Talk about a guy who knows how to put together those takedowns. I mean, I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense. Then maybe after that, maybe an Alexander Volkov.
All right. So if you are Sergey Spivak or Alexander Volkov, for example, what is your training camp like for Jailton Almeida versus one of these other heavyweights? I'd imagine for a lot of these guys, it's not a particularly fun training camp. I mean, if you think Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and he'll break your hand, by the way, with a handshake. Like, I'm shaking his hand at the ceremonial weigh-in on stage, and it's like, Jairzinho. I mean, we got to go in that hard right now, There's
little bones in here, yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is you have to be able to stop those takedowns, right? And then it's not that you're safe all of a sudden on the feet. You still got to be extremely sharp and on point defensively. But I think, that training camp really starts and ends with good takedown defense. And then also working on some of those terrible positions of, have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt mount you, take your back. You have to be able to escape, get back to your feet, all of those things. Because if Almeida is able to get you down, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, he's going to bring the pressure. He's going to bring the submission game. And you have to be very, very careful. So, I
just feel like it stands to reason could be a guy that people avoid. I mean, Tai Tuivasa will fight anybody, and it seems like Tai has turned the corner when it comes to the preparation and the work ethic and understanding exactly what needs to be done. But Tai wants to stand and bang, and I think a lot of these heavyweights do, and I do think that's an annoying guy to have to prepare for. But congrats to Jailton Almeida. I love offensive jiu-jitsu guys, and he certainly qualifies. You picked Johnny Walker to beat Anthony Lionheart-Smith. He was able to do so, and he does it by unanimous decision. 30-27 times 2, 29-28 from the dissenting judge. You had a nice seat for the co-main event as Johnny Walker likely moves into the top 5. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought this was a Johnny Walker that was very, very calculated in his approach, perhaps too calculated for my liking, but still, this was good for me to get, or for him, I should say, to get 15 minutes of octagon time in there against a guy in Anthony Smith who was dangerous with that overhand right. He was looking for it, was able to lend it a couple times. Johnny Walker's chin was holding up pretty well. And more than anything else, I think he was doing a good job just getting his head off the center line there for most of them. But he does have to be careful with that head position and making sure that he is moving that head. Anthony Smith isn't necessarily known for his striking, but I think this was a good fight for him. Anthony Smith is a big name in that division, has a ton of experience. And for Johnny Walker to go out there, have a disciplined 15 minutes, I think is huge for him and his team. There are a lot of eyes watching to see how he would come out of this. And, I think there's a lot of pressure on him as well. So it was good to see him get the win. I thought attacking that lead leg of Anthony Smith was really smart. Anthony was leaning on that lead leg way too much and didn't make adjustments throughout the fight. That's what was kind of frustrating watching that. And Johnny Walker was just teeing away on that lead leg. And I think Anthony Smith was having a difficult time after it was compromised.
All right, more on Johnny Walker coming up, but there's only one place, at least to my knowledge, where you can hear from Ray Longo at the beginning of the week after all of these fights. So let us not make a good man wait. Let us get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian Podcast.
Hey, Jesus.
Hey,
Man.
so what if we told you that you can no longer go on some of those other? Oh, did you get a haircut?
No, last
Wow.
week.
Wow.
I got a little
And we
alfalfa
took a
going on in
decent
the back.
amount off.
Yeah, how
We
do I
took a
look?
decent.
Man, this is unbelievable. I feel the love already.
Oh, you look amazing.
Slick.
You look better than ever. I mean, I'm a guy who's been shaving his head since I'm 14 years old. It's like a free workout, right? It's like you look thinner almost immediately. I mean, you look great. Why don't you get a cut every 3 weeks? You know,
I'm gonna try. That's the
men
goal.
and their hair. I mean, men go to great lengths to keep their hair in a full head of hair, and you know, I don't know whether you got a widow's peak or otherwise. Gentlemen out there, just shave your heads. It's just the greatest thing ever.
What the heck are we talking about?
No, not you. You don't have a widow's peak. Hey, so it's good to see you. I was just going to say, we would never prevent you from going on any other shows. I was just going to make a little joke there. How's that other program, Extra Rounds, going, by the way, these days? Anyway.
Unbelievable. What a nice guy that TJ DeSantis is. What a sweetheart.
There you go. So,
wait, what other shows did I go on?
No, I don't care. I mean, not that I don't care. I care. I mean, I care. I'm going to go listen to them as soon as we're done. But, hey, how much you pay for your haircut?
$0.
What? Of course. Free. What a terrible question by me.
And the girl comes to the gym to cut it. We got good people on Long. That's what I love about
What about
Long
gratuity?
Island.
What about gratuity?
You know what? I think I forgot the gratuity. That's a good point, John.
Oh, man.
Or should I have said no comment? All right, let me tell you my 2 takeaways on over the week, the fight Saturday night. Dominic Cruz is fucking insane. He can't let anything go. Dude, he's got to stop. He can't control himself. At least show some self-control. My God. Is this grudge gonna? How long will this grudge carry on for? Is what I want to know.
All right, so
forever.
That's one. Don't say nothing.
Wait, hang on a second. Wait. You all right? You just came on, steered the conversation to mixed martial arts, made a comment, and then just said, "Don't say nothing."
Well, I wanted to get to my number 2. I was going to compliment you on something, and then we could go back. Number 2 is that Ian Garry looked really good. You had a good observation last time. I wasn't sold. I'm all in now. I thought he looked great against a more of a quality guy. So hats off to you.
All right.
Because I think
thank you. Well,
let's
thank
go
you.
back to number 1.
No, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? Like I wanted to do a deeper dive on the gratuity. We have you for 30 minutes, but you're trying to advance the show to MMA. Well, how do you forget to tip someone when they give you a free haircut?
You know what? First off, I'll tell you why I don't feel bad right now. I'm a big tipper. So I'm a user.
I bet you are. I bet you are.
You know what? I'm going to have to. I think I'm taking it for granted, and that's what I feel right now. I got to do something.
All right.
She is a student.
We're always there for you.
She is a student, so that you know the way that thing works, Kenny. When you're the Sifu, you're the Grand Poobah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, just in terms of the overall aesthetic for the show, I know you're clearing your nostrils right now, but we're on the DraftKings network. So we will, Anik and Florian LLC is happy to pay for you to get your haircut, or we'll tip your barber, whatever you need, man.
You think it's weird if I had one of the girls rubbing my feet out?
Yeah, we're not gonna pay for that. All right, so I'd like to talk about Dominic Cruz if I could, right? So what exactly is your issue? Is it when he said the all-nonsense Keith Peterson?
Well, it's just his passion. Look, I'm not saying it's even a bad thing. I like a guy that holds a grudge, but I get a kick out of it. But he just can't move on. He's not moving on.
I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then Kenny, I would like you to respond to it, and then Ray could follow, okay? When Keith Peterson prematurely stopped the fight with Henry Cejudo and Dominic Cruz, right? I came to Keith's defense when one of my best friends, Dominic Cruz, said something about cigarettes and alcohol, right?
Yeah. Which is not
I put
true.
my friendship with Cruz, I put my friendship with Dom, though, at risk to defend Keith Peterson. So hopefully people will give me the benefit of the doubt when I say this. You have to see things, at least, Kenny, from Dominic's standpoint, okay?
Right.
Forgetting even if you want the history between the two. Like in this moment, right, we felt like this situation was a little bit mishandled by Keith, not handled with conviction per se. And then Keith is like looking at Dominic Cruz in the broadcast booth. I love Keith Peterson. I gave him the nickname No Nonsense, right? But it's like people don't want to look at Dominic Cruz's perspective. And from his perspective, the referee shouldn't be locking eyes with a commentator, looking up for approval or otherwise, right? And he thought he mangled the situation. And so he said the all-nonsense Keith Peterson. So do I think he should let it go or be reprimanded by Craig Borsari or Zach Candido? I don't. And I hope I didn't just like get suspended. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because, listen, Dominic Cruz has direct experience with Keith Peterson in a match where he feels it should have gone longer. I agree with Dominic Cruz in that regard. Perhaps the way that you handle it, could have been a little bit better. But I think that having that passion on the broadcast also adds a certain layer of entertainment to it as well. And, Dominic is never going to be a guy that is going to be shy and letting his opinion fly. And I think that's what makes Dominic Cruz Dominic, right? I mean, he's going to stick to his guns on that. He's going to be authentic for better or worse. And I don't know. I think that's kind of what's cool is that you got to appreciate Dominic in that regard. Is he is who he is, man. He's never going to be fake. He's going to say exactly what's on his mind. And I think also from a broadcast standpoint, fans can appreciate that. It may not be everyone's sort of cup of tea, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah.
Ray, do you think it took away from Carlos Ulberg?
No, first off, I agree with both of you guys, and I agree with Kenny 100%. I get a kick out of it. I'm just trying to make light and make a joke out of it. I think you guys, you know who Dom is. You're not stopping that guy from saying anything. It's impossible. I mean, since the first day I met him, he was always saying like crazy shit. You know what I mean? Crazy. That's just who he is, and you either like that or dislike it. I personally like it. I just think the passion, like it's never going to go away. You know what I mean? He's just not letting that go, which is funny to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to.
That's a tough one, man. Championship fight. Championship. I've never been in that situation, but if I'm being honest, I definitely would hold a grudge for a little bit if I felt like, hey, championship moment. They stopped the fight. I felt like I was still in it, or still give me a chance to get back in there, especially if I was a former champion. I get it. I mean, I get it. I just get a kick out of it. That's all I'm saying. I get a kick out of it. I think at the end of the day, it's 100% benign. Nobody should get reprimanded. It's just pretty funny to me that it's almost like, here's the problem. They're like, what's the under over of Dom saying something? It's like 4 seconds. Like, you're taking the under. It's a gimme. It's a layup. That's where I'm coming from. Like, I'd like to see him refrain once just for his self-control and then go on from there. But no, definitely a good guy. Look, I watched his fight companion on the Aljo fight. I thought the guy was brilliant. I think that's what makes him Dominic Cruz. He brings up stuff nobody else is going to address. You know what I mean? So I thought he was great. So no, there's nothing. I'm coming at this from a funny standpoint, not from anything else.
Yeah.
John, I obviously didn't see the broadcast. I was there live, thanks to you. But was there a back and forth between him and Keith Peterson? Or no?
No, and I think I locked eyes with Keith at one point in time as well. But I'm trying to keep it real here, okay? Like, Keith Peterson is a good friend of mine. I consider him to be an elite referee, an outstanding father, right? But I do believe since that Cruz Cejudo fight, and I've said this before, he effectively changed, received the criticism, and he has had a longer leash since, and that was reflective in this decision. And I thought there was maybe a little bit of indecision, and I didn't quite understand why he was looking up at Dominic, but it's hard for me, right? Like, I'm not really trying to like publicly criticize the referee, but I do think that it's easy to sit back and hear Dom, throw a stone and not see the totality of the picture of what was going on, I guess.
To me, look, it was funny. He's like Kenny said, it's almost entertaining. I'm getting a kick out of it, listening to him. Like, this guy's, I don't know. Funny stuff. Do anybody watch Bill Maher at all?
Yes, he's
Bill Maher,
unbelievable. Massachusetts guy.
Yeah, I never really was watching him, but man, during the COVID thing, this poor guy, all he would say is, can we at least say exercise to help yourself? Nobody wanted to listen to him.
Bill Maher.
Bill Burr. Every week.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Kenny, I would tune in just to listen to this guy say, what about exercise? Can we all agree that and they would look at him like, what are you, an idiot? Like, he couldn't get off of that. That's what it reminds me of. Like, Dom is never leaving this. And Bill Maher's never leaving the exercise. It was a good thing. And, I mean, he had one guy say, well, what do you want us to mandate it? And he's like, yeah, that would be a start. Like, how do you not even see that? So I get that. I don't know. That's what it reminds me of. Guys that they just can't let go of something. And I agree kind of with both of them. So.
Yeah, I can't let this go either. Cody's asking me if Dom was just in line of sight for Keith. And I guess maybe there was some of that, but I think maybe, you'd be looking down at the action, which he was. And I thought it was also maybe Alberg showing some restraint. And, Team Florian would tell you every day of the week that we'll learn from that restraint and we will not be as willing to show restraint in the future. These Florian boys are trying to give you scars for life in those situations. So. They are. I mean, you guys ever meet Keith Florian? It's a back alley guy. That's a guy you want in that back alley.
But
all right, Ray. Look,
go ahead. You
guys
look like you had a great time too, which is good. So
did we have a great time at Casa de Florian?
Oh,
wow. Raymond. I took Dominic Cruz. Kenny let Dominic Cruz in front of his children. Yes, I would. No, I'm not going to comment on whether or not it's a mansion. But he invited Dominic.
I don't know. Somehow I'm picturing Gone with the Wind, like that type of mansion.
It was.
And we had a great meal too, John. We had a great meal.
I had one of the better meals of my life. The steak at Supperland and everything else. It was a glorious, glorious meal. I could go on and on. And you knew Ken Flo would pick an amazing 5-star restaurant with the aesthetic. No, I mean, power couple. They know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, the residence was pretty outstanding, Ray, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you missed the top of the show. I'm moving to Charlotte. I think I might move to Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even kidding.
I thought you were coming east. What are you talking about?
No, I mean,
you got Quinta looking for houses for you out here.
I know. I'm all over the place. I do think, though, Kenny would get a little bit annoyed with me on that swing in his backyard every night. I'd just be on that swing unless maybe he'll let me use his arborist. He hired a fucking arborist to hang a 50-foot swing in a tree in his backyard.
Yeah, listen.
I mean, I have to tell my kids John's taking a turn right now. You're going to have to wait.
Yeah,
John's
Kenny,
taking a turn. After he's done.
Yeah, Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong. After he left, your wife looked at you and said, under no circumstances is that guy moving to Charlotte. Tell me if I'm right, if I'm right on the head. Tell me if I hit this right on the head, Kenny.
She loved John for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand why, but yeah, she loves talking to him.
I know this is being recorded, but tell me the truth.
Hey, John's charisma is something powerful, man. It's
He's unbelievable. No, he is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The best of the best, this guy.
Well, thank you. Well, hey, I mean, as long as Clark's mother, was on my side, then that's really all I need. So I do want to talk about some MMA. Even though I don't think we've exhausted the Charlotte thing for this episode, but I want to talk to you about Ian Garry just a little bit because it's easy for me to wax poetic about this guy. I've spent a lot of time around him, 5 fighter meetings, 5 fights in the UFC, but I just mentally, physically at 25 years old, he's one of one for me in terms of being close to the total package. He would kill me for saying total package, but kid's got it all. He's 25 years of age and he's not out there getting worse.
Yeah, no. I just thought the last fight, the opponent was a little lesser. I thought he should have did what he did to Rodriguez the last time, but he got it against, I think, a quality guy, definitely a tough guy. So I think hats off to Ian Garry. Looked great. And I just wanted to say, compliments to you because you were, you've been talking about him. So, I didn't see anything the last fight. I thought he could have did better. But man, did he make up for it this time? And that's the way to do it. That's the way to make a statement, man. You take a guy like Rodriguez and get rid of him like that. Really, really good. So hats off to him.
Before I ask you about Jailton Almeida, the heavyweight, I just want to tie Johnny Walker and Carlos Ulberg together if I could. Johnny Walker is now in the top 5. Or will be as soon as the new rankings come out. Methodical effort against Anthony Lionheart-Smith. Some suggesting maybe he could have taken a few more chances down the stretch, but he spoke to wanting those 15 minutes against Anthony Smith. But when you think about ceiling and future, Johnny Walker, Carlos Ulberg, how do you feel about those two gentlemen after big wins over the weekend?
I'm agreeing with. I think. Kavanaugh did a great job with Walker. They calmed him down, right? He was more of a mad hatter. He was either hitting you with something crazy or getting knocked out. So what comes with that for a while, I think, is what you saw. He's trying to work into that. But, yeah, he could have taken more chances. But he did get 15 minutes in, which I think psychologically is good for a guy that, got rid of a lot of guys early. But I think it's all part of the process, I'm going to say. But he could have definitely have picked it up a little more. Anthony Smith looked like he definitely was confused with the range. He was finding the overhand right every so often, but like too little, too late, I think. So I think, I think I like where he's going. I like to see him mix in his calmness with his aggression, and I think he tried to do that, a couple of flying knees here and there, but I think once he gets comfortable in his own skin at doing both, I think they got a really good shot with that kid. And the other kid looks, who was the other guy you mentioned?
Carlos Ulberg, City Kickboxing Kid. He's won 4 in a row now, 32 years of age.
Really good. Really, really good. He looked great too. So, I think they both have, their ceiling is, I think Johnny Walker is still getting better because, he's maturing a little bit more with the stand-up. And the other kid looks great. And he comes from a great camp, so I can't see anything wrong with him.
I mean, seeing these 4 athletes, Jailton Almeida, Johnny Walker, Ian Machado, Garry, Carlos Ulberg, in the fighter meetings and all week, all of them are just so committed to the cause and rounding into their own. Like, it's really going to be interesting to see if any of these guys can really emerge and make a run. I mean, Ulberg's an outstanding athlete, easily would have been a rugby league star, I think. And he's huge, and he's training every day alongside the best fighter in the world. So I don't know. I'm really intrigued by Carlos Ulberg. I really like the Johnny Walker, John Kavanaugh kinship, as you sort of articulated. So it was a fun night. A lot of finishes, obviously, which is a broadcaster's dream. What about Matt Brown? What do you do with Matt Brown when it comes to the UFC Hall of Fame, Raymond? What do you do with Matt Brown?
What a beautiful right hand that was. Against the tough Court McGee, man. That was, what do you do with him? What was the question? What do you do with him with the Hall of Fame?
It's almost rhetorical. I mean, Matt Brown's an absolute savage, right? I mean, we're talking about season 7 of The Ultimate Fighter, most decorated knockout artist in UFC history. And by the way, doing it not at heavyweight, doing it at 170 pounds is absolutely insane. I think, as Ant Evans, former UFC employee, said, the fight wing of the UFC Hall of Fame was designed to get fighters like Matt Brown in the Hall of Fame. And I think his foremost fight was 2014 at home in Ohio, Cincinnati, against Eric Silva. And I think that's the way you get Matt Brown into the Hall of Fame, right? It's hard. He never fought for the belt. He had a 7-fight winning streak, right? Had some big main events. I think someone suggested UFC President Dana White, Kenny, back in the day, called him Mr. Fox, because he always had big fights and delivered on Fox. But no, just really happy for Matt Brown, who was particularly smiley this week, which was good to see.
Yeah, no, he's how old is he too? 42?
Yeah, 42. Yeah. Born January 10th, 1981.
Yeah, outstanding. I mean, I thought he was great, and yeah, I think I would throw him in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Yeah, all right, buddy. Well, go ahead, Ken Flo.
I was just going to say it was a perfect matchup. First of all, I thought it was matched perfectly. Both guys, kind of that sort of generation. Matt Brown's been been around a lot longer, but to see him get that kind of performance at 42 years old, man, just hats off to him, man. And he's not done yet. He wants to continue fighting, and now has the record right for most knockouts. So. Very, very impressed with that man.
And he looks the same. He didn't look much different. I mean, he's definitely I mean, I'm sure he's dealt with a shitload of injuries too, but he looks pretty freaking good, man, for 42. I mean, the timing on that counter was outstanding. So hats off to him.
Yes.
I think if you match him up the right way, he'll keep doing that, you know?
He's winning fights and winning bonuses. Now 3 straight bonuses, and he'll be
Unreal.
43 in January. It's absolutely incredible what he's been able to accomplish. It really is. 30 UFC fights, and I was with him in the gym. The easiest time for me to get on a treadmill, by the way, is Friday morning when I know these fighters are cutting weight. It's like you can't do 3.2 miles, you fat fuck, while they're all cutting weight. You can't run a 5K on a goddamn treadmill. Yes, you can. And so I'm in there on the treadmill, and I see Matt Brown, and then he comes into the room and we're talking, and he's like, I'm on weight, but like I feel great. He's getting back on the treadmill, smiling. The dude is an absolute machine, like imagine being his son, right? He has twin boys and he has a daughter as well. We were talking about that. His twin boys are just going to be absolute savages. Like kids out there in the greater state of Ohio, like fuck with Matt Brown's kids at your own peril. Like those kids, you don't want to mess with those kids.
That's true.
All right, Ray. Well, I'm going to get you out of here, man, unless you got anything else regionally, locally, or otherwise. The haircut looks great. I think you should get one every 3 weeks, but I think I'm ready to send you on your way unless you have anything else.
I just put hats off to Armando Getcha, won the Ring of Combat 55 title this weekend. So I want to say congrats to him. Smart fight, really good guy. Hopefully we'll see him in the Contender Series coming up. We'll try to push him in there, but really nice kid. And that's it. Just congrats to him. It was a crazy, I went right from Jersey to Atlantic City again. I came back to Long Island and back to Jersey. So
yeah.
And I did the Luke Thomas show. I thought that's what you were talking about. I don't even know if it's out yet, but
I love Luke Thomas. Love me some Luke Thomas.
First of all, he's huge, man. I didn't realize he was that big. He's like 6'4", I think he said.
Yep.
But they got a funny little studio over there. I think it's going to be a good one. I don't know. It was pretty fun with him and Campbell.
Brian Campbell, yes.
Brian Campbell, nice guy, really nice guy.
Great guys.
Definitely looked like polar opposites.
Yeah.
So it was. I think it was a good time.
Yeah. Kenny used to be colleagues with Brian Campbell at ESPN, as did I for a long time. So we know Brian well.
Wow.
And way back in the day, he was an editor for ESPN Digital Media, and look at him now. So yeah, very happy for his success.
Yeah. Sounds good. And where's he originally from?
I think Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right next to where you are there in New York. Not far away.
Well, yeah.
Why? I'm on one now. I'm on one. It's always me, right? It's always me. I say to my wife, right? It's always fucking my fault, right? Oh, fuck out of here, man. Get that censor button ready. Oh, should we talk about that, by the way? That came out of left field, huh?
Wait, what happened? Talk about what?
No. It was a little bit. No, I think there's a chance maybe some of our swears on the DraftKings network. DraftKings wants us. They want us to be ourselves. We told them when we signed the deal, Ray Longo's a little bit rough around the edges. They want this show. Myself. And it's not going to be censored. Certainly, if you're watching this on YouTube, it might be cleaned up a little bit on the DraftKings network. But it's all systems go.
Are they censoring us? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't know. No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Crap. All right.
I'm going to let you get out of here. I'll leave you with this.
Yes. Leave me
Charlie
with something
Campbell,
needed.
June 16th. Get it done.
Charlie Campbell will get it done on June 16th. We got a couple other guys fighting too. Remind me next week. I got to go look at the board.
What are you laughing at? You like this? Yeah? Is this funny? Yeah? It's a joke to you?
This is hysterical. What are you?
Yeah.
What are you, Joe Pesci? Slow down, Rocky. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's all natural, though. That's all you need to know. People try to draw conclusions from my eyes, right? Longo's out here telling you he goes from Newark to Atlantic City. It's like I went Newark, New York City, home for 24 hours, bunch of childcare, straight to Charlotte, North Carolina,
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I'm not mad. No, I can't match you, but,
yeah,
I got 20 years on you. It's a big difference.
No, of course. And by the way, we did the shop show today, and there was a lot of Ray Longo talk.
Oh, wow.
Yep. We were singing your praises as usual. I did say, I was like, a guy can't walk, but man, he can coach.
That's
the most important thing.
I had a rough week. It was rough. I don't care if I got a crawl. I wonder if they could put like a handicap wheelchair ramp up there for me. Just wheel me up there. Just throw me into the octagon. Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, what kind of organization is this, Ken Flo? I got to walk up the stairs still? Horrible.
Hey, whatever you need. All right?
You guys are the best. I will talk to you next week.
Love
Take
you,
it
Raymond.
easy, guys. Take care.
Everybody loves Raymond, right? I mean, that joke just too easy. Everybody loves Raymond. Ray Longo made it every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast.
Do we have to get him a wheelchair now, John? Is that what we have to do? Do we need one of those, like a little electric? Do we get a motorized one?
Whatever it takes.
What are we doing?
Whatever it takes.
Oh, man.
I think he wants a cold brew coffee IV as well. I mean, I get the sense that he has a cup of cold brew, like right up till bedtime, hitting that cold brew right up till bed. And then he goes to bed. All right. So how many UFC wins does Kenny Florian have? If I'm not mistaken, it's 12. Alex Morono has 12 UFC wins, Kenny. Gets it done in his 18th UFC appearance against Timmy Means Business. What else can you say about Alex the Great White Morono, right? It's like, don't let the body fat percentage fool you, right? No, and he looked even tighter this time around. He looked good. But,
dude, he's tough. He's tough. I know him as a grappler, but he has made huge strides with his striking as well. High pressure fighter, very tough, smart. It was great to see him get a win. And dude, I hit him for 2. I hit him for the double.
I know.
Thank you, Alex.
I was about to tell our audience, you are perfect on your multiple unit bets in 2023. Oh. Every single time you have put more on a fighter, that has come through for you. Alex Morono, yes, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Gracie Barra, the Woodlands, is his gym, but has always listed himself as a kickboxer, which I've always found sort of an interesting juxtaposition, but certainly knows his way around a submission. The guillotine is his go-to submission. And I know you didn't hear the broadcast, but how cool for me and Daniel Cormier. And I'm peeling back the curtain a little bit, and I trust Alex doesn't mind. And maybe you can give me a lesson in terms of what can and can't be revealed when it comes to training. But, one of the sessions that Daniel and I were able to see at Fortis MMA in Dallas when we were down there doing some work was a pro practice and going head to head were Alex Morono and Kyle Crutchmer, the very good collegiate wrestler. And Morono kept trying to get that guillotine on Crutchmer, and I think the General Safe Saud perpetually was telling him to bail on the guillotine that he wasn't going to get. Kept going for it and wasn't able to get Crutchmer on it. He was able to get Tim Means on the guillotine. So for me, seeing the practice and seeing all of that, I mean, it just sort of brought it all together, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, congrats to Morono. Could easily have won 6 in a row right now. The lone loss in his last 6 fights against Santiago Ponzinibbio, a fight that he got a lot done in. So congrats to Alex Morono and all the other big winners. Brian Battle putting on a show in North Carolina. Just an absolutely great show. But in the nature of our beast, we need to spin it forward. UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Hill coming up. Cannonball coming at the UFC Apex this weekend. To that end, let us get to the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights! I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
One time Tony Ferguson alleged that I didn't want to be there for a fighter meeting. He was like, Anik doesn't want to be here. Anybody else have a question? And we, of course, buried the hatchet. It really hurt me because I love Tony, and I always loved Tony, and I just kept banging that drum. First double-digit winning streak in UFC lightweight history. It's just crazy that I'm glad he has a piece of gold at home, even though it's not undisputed. But yeah, that was something that happened during a fighter meeting back in the day. All right, so Brian Petrie, it's good to see you, buddy. What's going on?
Nothing much. I got to tell you, Johnny, I'm a part of the show, but a long-time listener. You're going to get a couple Minutemen after you with that red. You were busting his balls good, but the Minutemen are sensitive, John. They're going to come after you a little bit.
So the reason I brought up the Ferguson thing was that, the allegation that someone doesn't want to be somewhere is a pretty serious one, especially coming at me from a fighter. It's like, oh gosh, and I don't think it had to do with my energy. I think it maybe had to do with the place that he was in, but kind of felt like Longo didn't want to be here today, if I'm being honest. Is that going to upset the Minutemen as well? No, I mean, I can honestly say that's maybe the only time, right? But he's like, oftentimes he'll spin it to mixed martial arts, but sometimes he reacts differently to my energy. It's like you want me to just sit here and be like, all right, Raymond, Douglas Silva, Andrade by unanimous decision over Cody Stamen. Your thoughts on that catchweight affair? And you know what? On that show, Extra Rounds that he does,
Sure.
That'll be the last plug they get on the Anik and Florian podcast, by the way. They're probably not asking you to tie together Johnny Walker and Carlos Ulberg, so sorry I prepped for the show, Ray, okay? And sorry to the Minutemen who fast forward to the Ray Longo Minute every week. And now Cody's telling me on Cody's 30th birthday that he's going to censor that.
Oh, happy birthday, Cody. I didn't know his birthday.
You're not going to censor that.
Extra rounds.
In your 30s now, brother.
Beep show, whatever it is.
All right. Always
you can leave all the fucks in that you want. I mean, slam it.
All right. I'm just trying to keep it hundo P, Bri.
I love it. Me too. I'm just letting you know they're a sensitive bunch. I read the comments. They'll get you.
So seems like you got more lovers than haters yourself, Bri. So before we get into the picks, I just want to say to Charlotte, North Carolina, if every 7 out of 10 people coming up to me are mentioning the podcast and mentioning Ken Flo and Brian Petrie, just warms the cackles of my heart. So I just want to pass that along to you, my good friend. There's a lot of Petrie love out there in the UFC live audiences. So
great. Yeah, Charlotte's a great city. Another Queen City after Cincinnati. I have family that live in Charlotte. Basically it's my family goes from New York to Boston. They retire in the Carolinas. So we're all over the place, but that's nice.
You get a little sensitive there in Cincinnati about the Queen City, Charlotte, or no?
No, because I've been to Charlotte a handful of times, and I'm like, if it was a shit town, I'd be like, whoa, what's going on here? But it's great. I love it. Yeah. So no, we're all right. We're all right.
It's going to be the Anik and Florian podcast live from Charlotte, North Carolina, probably January 2025 when I move there. All right, I'm going to update the standings here. Team Florian goes 4-1 plus $220, gets back into the black on the year, plus 5 beans on the year. Kenny's up $5 to the positive. Good week for Petrie as well, 3-2 plus $20 year to date. Minus $2,930. How to treat you in the DraftKings Sportsbook, Petrie, with your wagers on your own other than the podcast?
I'm a little down this week. I hit on Ulberg by KO round 1, which was a big one for me. And then I hit Jailton and Almeida like 3 different ways. In the one way I was like, do I go TKO? Do I go sub? I went sub round 1, which obviously was a nice little plus money. Not as juicy as you want because people are on Almeida. But I'm down a little bit. It was a 3 winning weeks in a row, and now we're down. I almost switched my pick to Johnny Walker. I almost texted the boys and said, I'm going to go with Johnny Walker, but I saw Ken Flo on Walker. I'm like, I need the points. I need whatever. I didn't really love the way Anthony Smith was kind of carrying himself that week. No shot at Anthony Smith. Sure. I just thought Walker was going to be more prepared for that fight, and that's kind of what happened. But yeah, I rode with Smith as the slight dog when we picked him.
All right, well, we have 4 selections today. We also have a new rule. Now, I consult Kenny on almost everything I do when it comes to changing the show. And so there's certain things that I wasn't going to necessarily do. And I don't do this to try to close the gap. But I felt like I could make this change without consulting Kenny Florian, who owns 51% of Anik and Florian LLC. So basically, I'm not going to allow you guys to do submissions and knockouts and things like that. Propositions, can't do that. I don't really want you doing totals, if I'm being honest, in terms of over, under, a round and a half. But I did want to give you the opportunity, especially on a card like this in which we're only picking 4 fights. If there is a fight we're not picking and you want to make a selection for the public, we certainly would like more wagers as opposed to less. So from now on, if there is a fight that you are not assigned to pick that you would like to give out as a play, can go up to 5 units. We would like to afford you that opportunity. We will begin with Petrie at lightweight. Diego Fajeda minus 145. Michael the Menace Johnson plus 125. So Fajeda won 6 in a row, Bri, before this 3-fight skid that has come against big names: Beneil Dariush, Mateusz Gamrot, Gregor Gillespie. Didn't fight at all in 2022. We saw him training at Fortis MMA in Dallas last month. For what it's worth, he looked great. On the other side, Michael Johnson, UFC star number 28, coming off a strong performance against Mark Jacasey last year. Your thoughts on a pretty good scrap here at 155 pounds, Kit?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough in my life, guys. I don't have many vices. I don't smoke. I rarely drink, maybe once a year, but I'm fucking addicted to betting Michael Johnson at plus money. I think he's scared this dog. This guy's good, right? And then since he's come back, I think he should be 3-0 since his little break, right? I had him winning over Jamie Malarkey, which was a very close fight, but I had him winning regardless of that. He's 2-1 against some good competition, 21-18 overall. He's been in there with everyone. He's all this talent. His biggest problem is between his brain, the mental side of things. He's got good wrestling. His power is there. I mean, he's knocked out Dustin Poirier. He's got a devastating left hand. My problem is this is a system play, right? I have two systems in my little betting system. One, you always bet Michael Johnson plus money. Number two, if a guy shaves his head and dyes it blonde, a la Brian Battle, you bet him, right? So we're 1-0 on the system play. So I got to rock with the only hesitant here. I think Diego Ferreira is a great fighter. He's on a little bit of a skid here. Last time on against Gamrot, I believe he hurt his rib. It wasn't like a full finish. He busted a rib. But Johnny produces gold, and he was down in Fortis MMA, and since he's been down there, those guys are coming out and they're winning. That's a great camp anyway. He gave him a little bit of a boost, so I'm a little hesitant, but I'm going to go with the system. I'm going to go with Michael Johnson plus money. I do think he can catch Diego Ferreira maybe later in the fight, because Diego does tend to slow down just enough, and Michael Johnson carries power for 3 rounds. So give me the dog and Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson plus 125 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. And by the way, he injected the name Brian Battle, Charlotte's own. Fighters go a whole career without having anything resembling a moment like that. To have a moment like that in your hometown, a 14-second knockout, it doesn't even matter what happens from here. And he misses weight, by the way, and still gets a bonus from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I understand why they wanted to reward that performance. All right. Welter, Ken Flo, why don't you give us a pick before I hastily move on?
Yes, definitely. Listen, I'm with Brian here. I think this fight is too close to not go with the underdog here. Diego Ferreira can win this fight, but listen, he's on a bad losing skid right now. I think, if he's able to get it down to the ground and secure maybe a back position, he can get the win by submission against Michael Johnson, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get there consistently. I think his best shot is just kind of throwing the kitchen sink at him in round one. But I think Michael Johnson has too much experience to really fall for that. I think he's going to be able to keep this one on the feet, outpoint him, and get the win here against Ferreira.
All right, both guys like Michael Johnson plus money right now, if you like that. Moving on now to the welterweights, Brian Petrie. So Joaquin Buckley, I believe, fought his first 10 pro fights below 85.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was a catch weight at 180 pounds, right? He's going to welterweight here. He's minus 205 against Andre Fialho, who's plus 175. Obviously, you've studied Buckley extensively because you're just that guy, but he is coming off the knockout loss to your dear friend Chris Curtis. Fought 4 times in 2022. Fialho fought 5 times in the UFC last year. Went 2-3. I like the matchmaking here. What do you got for us on Joaquin Buckley, 2-1 favorite over Andre Fialho?
So I think the line's a little off. I understand giving Buckley the little bit of the shine here because Fialho is coming off 2 pretty ugly losses. The knockout loss to Chris, Joaquin looked really good in the first round, and he's that kind of fighter. But you got very similar fighters who like to stand up and bang, and their chin isn't all that good. Buckley, he's been touched before, and I don't love him sucking out. I know he's not a big 85er, but he's got some beach muscles. Sucking out and going down to 170, that's not good for the brain. I don't think that's going to be better for the chin. He might be stronger, and he might want to implement wrestling as opposed to because he's going to lack in a little bit of speed. But Fialho, even though he does have a chin problem as well, he does have some crisp boxing. He touched the body up a little bit, and I think if he gets in there and he doesn't get super reckless, I think he can win, and we're giving me plus money. Again, I'm going to go dog hunt, and I need it. Yeah. I like Andre Fialho here at plus 175, I believe was what you said the number was. So, yeah, It's close. I think it should have been – the line should be closer. I get it. Buckley might wrestle, but, again, sucking out with no chin, give me Fialho.
Kenny, it is interesting how when Bryce says – a Brazilian name, a name in Brazilian Portuguese, he can't help but get a little bit musical, even with Fialho. Just a little.
I sing it. I sing
it songy. I love it. Yeah, man. Joaquin Buckley, I couldn't agree more. I think the number's a little bit too big on him at minus 205. And Fialho can crack, man. He's tough. I don't think his chin is what it used to be, when he first came into the UFC. Not that he's been in the UFC for several years or anything, but he's been around. He's had a very busy schedule since he's been in the UFC, especially early on. So I do think he's dangerous. Buckley, I think, has more tools overall. I think he moves a little bit better, but both these guys aren't like guys that you can consistently rely on for a particular performance. So as of right now, I'm going to lean on Buckley just because I want to be a little bit different and not go the same way as Brian here. But I will reserve the right. I want to see how these guys look on fight week. This is a big one, I think, for this fight in particular, where you kind of have to see where they're at, especially with Buckley going back down to 170 pounds.
All right, co-main event. We'll go right back to you, Ken Flo, to lead the dance on this one. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, minus 275. Edmund Shabazian, plus 230. So Fluffy getting a lot of respect here, Kenny, from odds makers, seemingly from bettors as well. He has won 3 in a row. Shabazian gaining some confidence, getting back into the win column, finished Dalsha Lungiambula last year. And largely, Shabazian has taken the time, a full year at least, to reset, to get better. That was prior to the fight against Lungiambula. And he's only lost to very good / elite fighters, right? Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov. Kenny Florian, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, near 3-1 over Edmund Shabazian. Which way you going?
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit too big of a number for Hernandez. I'm a little surprised by that, but certainly deserves to be the favorite here. I love the way that he puts together his jiu-jitsu and wrestling. I think he is an absolute nuisance up against the cage. Really knows how to lean on you, get you to carry his body weight. Very good at taking the back from that cage position, ties up your arms and legs really well, beats you up, uses his punches and strikes to advance position. But I think against Shabazian, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's done it before. So I like Hernandez here. I do think you got to watch out for Edmund Shabazian, especially early on in this fight. Round 1, watch out. He's got a lot of firepower. I'm curious to see what kind of adjustments he has made. I guess I'm not so bullish on his training camp and in his ability to bring in the right guys for his camp. I hope he did. I hope he's been working on his jiu-jitsu and wrestling, particularly in preparation for this fight. Is he doing that? I don't know. I just have to kind of go on based on what I've seen. I think this is not a great matchup for him. I like Hernandez here to win.
Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, minus 275. You know, Brian might have suggested Hernandez as one of the more underrated fighters on the roster, but minus 275 suggests he is not underrated. What do you have for us on the co-main event?
Vegas is getting smart. You know, this is a line that would have flown on the radar about 5 years ago, where they're like, because Hernandez doesn't really talk a lot of shit. It's kind of really not the MMA world. Like, he disappears after he fights, and then he comes back and he dominates, and he looks good. It's a guy I've doubted a lot. I mean, I remember watching him just get folded like a lawn chair to Kevin Holland with that knee to the body. I'm like, you know, and then, you know, the Contender Series stuff where you know, some weed or whatever, which is real stupid. But then he's putting it together. He's almost like a Dagestanian, the way he chain wrestles and he mixes jiu-jitsu and together. And Shabazian's in the Extreme Couture, and I know people that in the camp, and they rave about him, and he's out of Glendale and he's training great. But his last couple fights, even the losses in the one win, he doesn't really fight in pure grapplers. He fought Jack Hermanson, lost the decision, got taken down 3 times. Fought Derek Brunson, got taken down 4 times, and got finished in that fight, right? Cardio's been a problem. Takedown defense has been a problem. He's dangerous in round 1. So to the bettors out there, I would say, because Hernandez has been clipped early in round 1, take Shabazian knockout round 1. That's not what I'm going to play. I think Hernandez is the real deal. Cardio kills. His grappling's very good. I'm looking at a submission late for Hernandez, and I thought Kenny was going to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. 3 units on the table. I need it. I need to come back. 3 units on Hernandez. I think this is a really good pick. This is about as, you know, for not a lot of fights on the card. You know, it's not like a full stack card. I think this is one of the safer plays here. I know it's a little high. We like lower numbers, but you know, we got to win some here. You know,
you're trying to add $300 to your bank account is what you're trying to do. $825 bet on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by Brian Petrie to yield 300. And that brings us to the main event. I'll keep it brief because you guys picked this fight last week. Mackenzie Dern minus 195. Not saying you can't analyze the hell out of it. Please do. Mackenzie Dern minus 195. Angela Hill plus 165. So Angela's 38, making her 23rd UFC start. I think it's the biggest fight of her career. It's been elevated from 3 rounds to 5. It has been given a 1-week delay. Brian Petrie, what do you have for us on Dern versus Hill in the headliner coming up in 6 days?
So this rattled my confidence a little bit because this happened to us not too long ago with Song Yudong Enrique Simone. That got postponed. And I came in, I was like, I'm even more heavy on Simone. And look what happened, right? So I'm like, well, wait a second. Now I got to really take a look at this because I believe I picked Dern and Kenny picked Hill.
Yes.
I'm still going with Dern, right? I do believe that over 5 rounds, she was going to get a takedown and find a submission. That's what I believe. I love what she says after the Yan Shanam fight. I love her mental. I love her going, when it goes to the ground, I got to finish. Angela Hill is a beast, one of my favorite fighters. She's awesome. She's funny on Twitter. She's beautiful. She's been around forever. She's an absolute killer. Last fight out, she landed 187 strikes, which is insane, right? I mean, she's nasty in the clinch, but I think over 5 rounds, you got to be perfect against Mackenzie Dern, who has great cardio and we all know can take it. Like, she can take a shot. She's tough. I like Dern by submission here. I know she's a dog as well, so give me another dog. Or excuse me, she's a favorite. Pardon me, but I like her by submission. Give me Mackenzie Dern.
Kenny, Angela Hill has gotten really good, right? I mean, I'm just like watching her live compared to a few years ago. Like, she has just gotten really, really good. The question is, will it be enough against Mackenzie Dern? Right. I know last week you liked Angie. Give us your thoughts on the main event.
Yeah, she could fight a great fight, and if she's off for like 10 seconds, Mackenzie Dern can go out there and submit her. That's how good Mackenzie is. She's just like one of those one-punch knockout artists. Her submissions are that good, and especially hearing what she said after that last fight where she knows she has to be more submission-oriented or sharper and cleaner with her attacks. I expect her to be at her absolute best here. Now, I feel like I should go to jiu-jitsu confession after this. Like, forgive me, Gracie, for I have sinned. Yeah. I am going against the jiu-jitsu brethren here. I'm going to stay with Angela Hill here unless I see something out of the ordinary on fight week. But I just think Angela's wrestling is going to be the key to victory here. She needs – is it almost that simple? Yeah, almost, right? I think she needs to stop those takedowns. If she keeps it on the feet, she wins this fight. And like Brian said, she is nasty in the clinch. Her knee-elbow combinations are fantastic. She has kind of this awkward rhythm that's hard to get a beat on. I think the first couple rounds will be telling. Once she gets in a rhythm, I think watch out. I think she tends to get stronger as the fight goes on. But I think those first 10 to 12 minutes, she has to be very careful with the submission whiz Mackenzie Dern. So fascinated to see how it all goes down.
I'm not going to give you guys a pick, but I would like to. Brian Petrie can be found on social media at Brian Petrie MMA. And you have next week off, but we may call on you because, fans just don't like going a week without hearing your voice.
Love it.
Your smiley
Johnny,
face.
I got to give my extra pick in there, for the extra fight. I didn't know we were going to do it at the end. Didn't know we were going to do it at the beginning. I have one.
Apologies.
I just want to get it in because I need the points, my brother. Gilbert Urbina, plus 110 over Ryan Kosey. I like that spot. I like the underdog spot for him. He's 6'3", 170. He's young. No, he doesn't have a ton of UFC experience coming off the Ultimate Fighter. Fighting family. I think he can get it done. Kosey gasses, fades, only 5'11". He's listed at 5'11". He's probably really 5'9". But Gilbert Urbina plus 110 is my extra pick there.
Gilbert Urbina plus 110. Ken Flo, no extra selection from you, I assume, because I gave you no notice, right? See, it's like, Ken Flo could be like, guys, right? Like, really? Gonna change the format right now?
He's such ahead of me, though.
But I didn't feel so convicted on one to say, let me go with this one. But yeah, I'll be using it though. I'll be using it.
There you go.
Hey, Bri, have a great day and a better evening. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks, if not sooner. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll see you, boys.
There he is, Brian Petrie, with us every week for the Main Event Challenge, and that is going to do it for another episode of the Anik and Florian podcast. Thank you all for supporting the show wherever you ingest your podcast. We appreciate that. And Ken Flo, thanks for having me at your house to meet your family. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. We loved having you.
I mean, crazy that he would let Dominic Cruz in his house, but that was his decision, not mine. We are back with you next week. We will see how it all goes down with Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill, and we have some other things planned as well. At least one UFC fighter will be on the program with us next Monday, May 22nd. Thanks to our executive producer, Cody Merrow. Happy 30th birthday, and to everybody on the DraftKings Network side as well. For Ken Flo, for Longo, for Petrie, I'm John Anik saying so long for now. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, go later.